Have you ever felt lost as a creative, not knowing where to find your people? In this week's episode, I'm joined by hip-hop artivist, the Chicana from Down Under, Maya Jupiter, as she takes us through her journey of finding community coming up in the Australian hip-hop scene. What made you so fearless in going against the grain?
I just knew that I wanted to work in the music industry. I was rapping since I was, 14 years old. I just wanted to be a part of it. And I also wanted to uplift other voices that I knew. It's like people, my friends that I know are doing great stuff, but why aren't they being heard?
I'm your host, Zenya, not your guru, just your girl. Okay, so Maya, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I call myself a hip-hop artivist, which is an artist activist. Mm-hmm. I have been in past lives a host and producer of a radio show back in Australia, a hip-hop show called Triple J's Hip-Hop Show. I used to be a VJ. For those that don't know what that is, it's when we had music videos played on television.
I remember this.
And I used to host shows on Channel V in Australia. But these days I am a mum, first and foremost. I have two beautiful kids. And
I can't believe that you're a mom and you look like this. Oh my God. Isn't that like incentive?
Love it.
Okay, got it.
But I also have been teaching hip hop songwriting workshops for 20 years.
Yeah, we met in Australia through Mr. Zooks. Shout out to Mr. Zooks, the African spear.
Yes.
Yeah, we met through Zooks and you had been traveling and he was like, I need to introduce you to Maya. You would love Maya. And you were already such a pioneer. So when I met you, I was like, I'd heard so much about you and you'd already accomplished so much at such a young age. I was just like, this chick is epic.
You know how we have schoolies in Australia? When you finish high school, everyone goes to, service paradise.
Yeah.
I chose not to. I worked for a year in a shoe store in the city and I saved my money and I went to New York City. And I was like, I'm going to go to hip hop Mecca because I want to know where it's from, what it's all about. I want to just absorb it. And I have been so driven, I think about that now. I'm like, wow, would I let my kid at 18 years old go to, New York by herself?
That's
from
scary.
Australia?
Exactly. Especially in those days when you can't FaceTime.
There was no internet. No, there was nothing like that. So I'm traveling thinking that I'm going to be going to a backpackers, a hostel like we had in Sydney, knowing that those things existed, thinking, I'll just find one of those. And, saved up a little bit of money and had a credit card, my first credit card. Of course, I maxed it out within the first week and a half.
Oh, yeah, because the dollar is double Australian.
Oh, it was insane. It was 50 cents to $1. But it was an adventure and I had the best time. And I learned a lot. And I think it just really sort of sums up how driven I was at such a young age.
Yeah. And then because you were so driven and you accomplished so many things at a young age and have lived several lifetimes within this one lifetime, which I get, you've been able to be a teacher of that. And the conversation that we wanted to talk about today was, if it doesn't exist, create it.
Yeah.
And I think that's the ultimate key to being a trailblazer. It's if you have an idea and a vision and it doesn't exist, go ahead, try it out, make it. What's your view on that?
I never thought of it in that way. For me, and I never called myself a teacher. I always say I facilitate songwriting workshops, creating a space for young people usually, and especially a lot of young women of color, BIPOC, to tell their stories. So you're just there creating that space for them to get it out. And it's, it's almost like therapy too, when we come together and we chat and we talk about our lives and what's going on. And then we can put it out on the paper. Lately, I have been mentoring young artists through the Music Forward's music program, open mic program, and I did that for a few years. And I found that the same themes were coming up, the same kind of
patterns.
Yeah, same patterns. And I was giving the same advice all the time. And one thing that was occurring was people hitting a wall, what do I do? how do I get my music out there? How do I get on more stages? How do I perform more? And I just started thinking about, being a hip hop artist from Sydney. We really struggled, like in the late 90s, early 2000s. The scene was very small. It was a beautiful community, but we were all building. And I'm not a pioneer by any means. There's people in the 80s, like Deaf Wish Cast and folks who came before me who really laid the foundation. But at the same time, we had to create those spaces. Yeah. Like if there wasn't an open mic, then we had to figure that out. Like, people were talking to the venues saying, okay, we'll do a split of the bar if you have us here, at this time on a Thursday night or whatever. It was like, I have done, it blows my mind that I like toured American artists, event promotion, I was like doing whatever I could because I just wanted to be a part of something, a part of the hip hop community. So it wasn't just about, getting in the studio and making my own music. It was also like, how can I contribute? How can we build this thing up so that it benefits all of us? Right. And also because we love it, because we believe in it. Yeah. And no one else knows how to do it. Like we were not waiting for major labels to come along and sign us. Like people, like the Hilltop Hoods came up independently. They didn't need a major label for that. They came up, they put their music out, they toured, and they created a following and a fan base, very organically.
Yeah. Yeah, Sydney was like a really interesting place because we would have a lot of different artists come out that a lot of people would never really get the opportunity to see if people like yourself or even the Killer Queens, shout out to the Killer Queens. But there was a lot of people that brought, it was a do-it-yourself kind of business to bring people out to Sydney because we got to watch on music videos the artists that we really enjoyed listening to, but we never got to like see them. So creating that was definitely, even for me, that's one of the reasons why I moved to the States is because I made enough contacts in Sydney to be able to come to the States and chase and follow those leads in order to do what it was that I've done already up until this point. So Sydney was I didn't grow up in Sydney. I moved to Sydney, but it was a big stepping stone for me to be able to get to the next level in which what you're helping these other kids learn. It's like there's steps to certain things. It's always different for everyone, but it's kind of got a blueprint, right?
Yeah. And I will try to give examples to illustrate the point. But one thing that comes to mind is this event, Ladies First, that my friend Emily and I put on. And it was all about supporting women in hip hop. So we did it twice. We did 2 different events, and we showed a documentary of women in hip hop. We had female DJs, we had female graffiti artists, B-girls, and performances. And it was really about like supporting women because we were finding that there wasn't a lot of support for women, in that ways, and encouraging the next generation too.
Right.
So it was like, okay, I'm not an event promoter. It's not a career path that I thought I would, pursue. I was still an artist wanting to make my own music. But it's like, well, where are we going to perform? And so I was able to bring up other female MCs. And I know people hate that when it's a female MC. I'm just an MC. I get it. And in the early 2000s, like we had to create space and it had to be intentional. Yeah. So, I encourage young people, like, especially if you're in university or college or at a music school, and I say, if you're having a hard time finding an open mic, which also in LA, it is really hard because there's a lot of this, you have to sell 20 tickets to get on the stage.
Right.
So essentially you're paying for your own time to perform,
right?
Which is such a weird system.
I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, like there's a lot of venues in Hollywood that are like that.
Wow.
So it's like, okay, what can you do? Like approach a local, cafe, or just think outside. Maybe it's a bookshop. Like approach them and say, I can bring 20 of my friends from music school or from university. And, every other Thursday night or once a Thursday or once a Wednesday, what's your quietest day? Once a Monday, once a month.
Yeah.
I'll bring 20 people in here, we'll do this and we can sell something. Like you make an arrangement or
Right.
just find a way to make it happen for yourself in that way. But it's not just about like, oh, because, I want to find a place to perform and people watch me. No, you attend other people's performances. You encourage other people, like show up for one another, create a community.
Because community it's
everything.
Massive. And we know from moving from one place to another, when you're there alone, you better form a community somewhat quick, but at the same time, good people that you have a lot in common with, that you can move together. Moving in numbers is actually really important, I personally find, because a lot of people like to say, oh, I did that myself. And
nothing is yourself.
No,
nothing in this world is yourself.
And it's not fun when you're not moving with the fam. Like that's what we did in Sydney. We had like a crew of people and we all knew each other and we all got along, but then we all knew that person's brother or this person's mom, and we all ended up having such a community.
Besides that though, also there's another part of it. Besides Sydney being small, like a population of 5 million people compared to LA, which is like 20 million, right?
It's
Crazy. But in my experience, I didn't have when I was out of high school, I didn't have anyone to go to these shows with. I was so into, underground hip hop and watching these, local artists perform, the Australian hip hop scene, but also, independent American artists touring. But I knew that if I went, I would make a friend, or I would see the same people always at the next show, right? And eventually, like, oh, hey, Mira, hey, Trey. Yeah. Like eventually, shout out to my girls.
Yeah, I love you.
You become friends and you find a sisterhood, you find a community.
Yeah.
Because you're always showing up.
Yeah.
And I think we have to think about not being extractive. It's always like, who's going to follow me? Who's going to come to my show? Who's going to listen to my music, share my music? Well, how are you giving?
That's it.
How are you showing up for someone else? Mm-hmm. How are you contributing? And you have to find ways to contribute, whether that's just through support, standing in the front row of someone else's show, or helping put it on. Like just get in where you fit in. Like, well, it's figure it out.
A gift. It's a gift to give. So that's what performance is. Yeah. And I think you bring up a really good point, and it's being able to go somewhere by yourself.
Yeah,
that actually is something that I prefer to do. Is go somewhere by myself, because I don't feel as though I have to tend to somebody else or someone else is taking up my energy. I love to go and meet new people. But we're confident people. We're able to do that. But it is something that if you start doing it, you'll notice that you start to build a community. If you go somewhere on a regular basis, you will meet people that you become a familiar face, which is so powerful. Mm-hmm. It's such a powerful thing. I don't think people do it as much these days. They're on their phones and they're looking down. And
yeah, it's a whole different ballgame. And that's the other thing, we're in a totally different time now. But I still think that there are some things that that remain the same. Socially it is, I think, there's other ways to connect online. You can DM someone and it's less, I think, socially awkward to just be by yourself, as to physically be in a space and have to make a friend. Whereas if you befriend somebody online and then meet up somewhere, so maybe that's a tool that helps. Yeah. But I find that it is tough. Like I didn't grow up in LA. Yeah. So even though I've been here 17 years now, which is crazy, I don't know, if it has always been this way, but where are the physical spaces?
Yeah.
Where are these physical places that we meet up, that we go to? For me, when I think about me coming up, my, early 20s, Next Level Records, oh my God, in the city of Sydney, I would go up there all the time, go up these little stairs. They had linoleum, so breakers could break anytime. They had the cans, graph writers would come.
So fun.
But Benedict, who worked and owned the store would say, hey, Maya, have you heard this new, album that just dropped? Have you heard this 12-inch? It's a single from Mos Def, or, the new whatever album that would come out. would just introduce me to so much music, and also take it backwards and say, do you know about BDP? Have you heard of Boogie Down Productions, KRS-One? Do you know about these artists from, the 80s or the 90s that I might not necessarily have gotten to in high school? So it was a real education, and it was someone like, sharing their knowledge with me. And I think about, like, I know that we have Spotify, you have playlists that you can follow other people's playlists, and then they auto suggest like the next track to listen to, but it's not creating community.
We had people that would show us that song. Like both of us had Zooks. Zooks was like a mentor to a lot of people, and he was really deeply rooted in understanding so many different cultures. He was from Tanzania, so but he loved hip hop music, came out to Australia, taught us R&B, hip hop, and really gave us that mentorship that we needed in recording and learning how to record and how to do the next steps. Actually, I have a question for you.
Yes.
So what made you so fearless in like going against the grain? So everyone goes to schoolies. You're like, I'm going to go to New York.
No interest in that.
What made you do all of these things by yourself to the point where you started hosting events, where you started doing shows, and you were so young, but you were like, I'm just going to do this?
I just knew that I wanted to work in the music industry. Like I knew I was rapping since I was, 14 years old. I think I wrote my first rhyme at maybe 15. I wrote my first rap at 15. I was listening to hip hop since 13, 14. I just knew that I wanted to be in the industry, and whatever that looked like. I wasn't, in the beginning, I wasn't really attached to any which way. I was like, and I think that's what led me into radio and television, because I would just wanted to be a part of it. And I also wanted to uplift other voices that I knew. It's like people, my friends that I know are doing great stuff, but why aren't they being heard?
Right.
I don't know what was inside me, and how maybe in high school I was bullied a little bit and kicked out of my girl group, and the girls that I was hanging out with. And so that was really, really tough.
I find that,
but
speaking
it
of
taught
that,
me some independence, I'll tell you that.
That's the thing I was going to say, because I got bullied as well. I actually heard that Britney Spears got bullied, and I was like, I remember hearing someone
has to do a study
there
on
has to be a study on being bullied, because it did push me out from being a part of a clique, and it made me confident to be on my own.
Yeah.
And I know I was bullied because of my light, and I'm sure the same thing with you. You were bullied for your light. I want to know, what was it like? What was your family like? Because
I would say, okay, so I'm 46. I'm a child of the 80s. So I was like latchkey kid. Like I would come home from school, open the door, like be home by myself for hours. I have an older sister, but somehow she's not in my memories of where she was in the house. I'm like, she must have been doing her own thing. Because when I think about my childhood, like it's me and my dog, hanging out, like spending a lot of time by ourselves, by myself. She's an older sister. She's only 2.5 years older, but it's funny. Love you, Shiraz. But yeah, I think that, growing up in that time period as well, where, I'd ride my bike around the neighborhood, I was very free. We were so free.
So you weren't brought up in the music. You weren't brought up around parents that were in the music business?
No, not at all. But I love to dance. My passion was dancing. And when I was a kid, I was in like ballet, tap,
I remember.
and jazz classes. You're just talking about the club. That's a whole nother thing. But I would be obsessed with watching like Janet Jackson music videos. And other music videos, with the VHS stop, rewind, play. Like I would have to figure out the choreography, and I would go in front of my house and perform for the street. There was no one on the street, but I would put my little tape deck, play Michael Jackson music or something, and just dance. I would just dance for hours and make up choreographies. I just loved it. I loved it so much. So I always felt the music. I always say my first love is dance and feeling the music in that way. And I always wanted to be a singer, but we couldn't afford singing lessons, and so that didn't happen for me. I was not blessed to be born with a singing voice. And I think that's the best thing about hip hop and emceeing and rapping is that you can hone your craft, you can practice it, but you don't have to have like formal training around it. You just got to study the greats.
So I ask you this because it's important for people to know, both myself and Maya, we didn't come from a family that we're not Nepo babies. Like we didn't come from a family that introduced us into anything. We found something we loved and we followed our passion and we made it work. We actually moved to the States in the same year. So we just found this out today. But it's one of those things where you don't have to be born into something or have all these connections. We made the connections. We met each other through being part of the connections and forming community. And we became a part of a community in one city, in one country, and now part of a community in another city in a completely different country. So it's kind of like where there is a will, there is a way. If you really love something, it's already designed and set up for you. You just got to take the steps and have the faith and make the decision to just go out and do it, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think I don't know if you're familiar with landmark education, but
I've heard this,
It's a personal development course. And there's one principle they talk about, attachment versus commitment, that I really love. It's really stuck with me out of a lot of the stuff that they teach you. But the principle of that is like being committed to not being attached to what it looks like, but being committed to what it is that you want. And so I think about that and how I relate that to my life and how I can share that with you as a young artist or young artist listening to this and going, I just want to be a singer. Okay, if you're attached to being a famous singer and it looks like that you have #1, hits on the pop charts, and it has to look that way, that might be challenging. But if you're committed to singing, then I would say think about really redefining or defining success for yourself. Because if you're committed to being a singer, that could show up in so many ways that could be very fulfilling in your life, It doesn't necessarily mean that that you'll be the sort of, capitalist version of what success is, meaning the most rich, wealthiest person in the world, but you could be rich in so many other ways. And being successful in that way isn't always necessarily fulfilling. There's a lot of artists who struggle, who are at that pinnacle, who achieve all these things and yet are, miserable or have a really hard life. And so I would say, be committed to, okay, I love to sing, and think about, why do you love to sing? Because I want to touch someone's life, because I want to affect someone, because it makes me feel so good, because it's like therapy, because I feel like I'm in meditation, because I feel like I'm one with God, because I love sharing my joy with people, because I love spreading, a message, whatever it is. Really sit and think about, okay, so would you define success? For me, I write music that, I talk about social issues. I talk about what I see in my community. I want to contribute. I feel like that's my lane. How can I contribute to the movement? Well, I can write a song about what's going on, and I could, encourage dialogue and conversation around it. And I can talk about all the things that need to change, and that's my contribution to shifting culture, to changing culture. And if that resonates with people, if people march with the song, if people share the song or see themselves in the music and says, yeah, that's exactly what I was feeling. That's what I was thinking. I'm glad that this song is out there. I'm glad that you said that, then that for me is success. It doesn't matter what my bank statements look like. That for me is, I feel fulfilled with that. And, and financially, yes, we live in a world where we got bills to pay. And so for me, always, that's why I diversified my income. I was like, okay, then I'll do things in, other ways that I can, have income for myself and look after myself. But at the same time, I'm not compromising my morals or my values.
That's a big thing. Not compromising your morals, your values, who you are.
Yeah.
And then also you can always, even with me, I never came out here to be a background singer, but the opportunity was there and it was a massive one for me.
Huge.
So I was like, okay, cool. Well, that's what we're doing then. Then I'm not attached to the outcome of being a number one singer. I'm more into the idea of like, okay, this is where my voice has taken me. I'll take it. Let's go. Let's do this.
And you're traveling the world and you're touching people and you're making your own fans as well, you know, and you still get to make your own music and it affords you a lifestyle.
Thank God.
Singing
Yeah.
and not having to do something, you know, that like a job that you dislike.
Oh my God.
You know?
And we know all about
And we don't know
those
what's
jobs.
ahead for us, you know?
Yeah.
Sheryl Crow was Michael Jackson's background vocalist.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Oh my gosh. I know. I think of her all the time. Yeah. As your girl, and since you called, I would say put yourself out there this week. Put yourself out there. Do something a little outside of your comfort zone. Put yourself in a scene where there's so many people that are doing the same thing that you're doing. Work on building a community. Work on building a community with people that are like-minded and that have the same desires and goals as you, and work together with this community. It's so important to build community in what it is that you're doing because there's power in numbers. Okay, so Maya, where can everyone find you on socials?
Just on Instagram, mostly at Maya Jupiter.
She's the coolest. I love Maya. And you are a pioneer. I know you said you're not, but you are. You have done so much for Sydney. You have done so much, not just in a way of like bringing people out or doing things, like it's just who you are and showing people that they can trailblaze and they don't have to be cut from a certain cloth with this family or do this or be in this kind of scene. It's like you're showing people and you're showing women that we can get up and we can come from nothing and become something. Like you can have an idea. And when I say just nothing, I mean just an idea and then become something. And you've done that for a lot of us in Sydney. So I appreciate you. And I am so grateful that you came on my show today.
Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for all you do as well.
Oh, of course. Thank you for joining us on another episode of Not Your Guru, Just Your Girl. I'm your host, Zenya. And just remember, you are the one you've been waiting for. Until next time.